So let me introduce our group together. They're not a panel, we're just a connection group. And then finally, Maggie O'Neill. Maggie, it's so good to be with you again. Maggie has been with the network for a long time. She is a professor of sociology and the head of the Department of Sociology and Criminology at University College Cork in Ireland. She is a member of the Center for the Study of the Moral Foundations of Economy and Society, and she's on the board of directors for Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies. She is an interdisciplinary scholar who conducts participatory action research and has a long history of working with artists and community groups to conduct art-based research, working together to create changes that keep social justice at the core of their research. She is a role model for so many of us. So wave your hand, Maggie. Thank you. And now we are going to move to our final Dignilogue contributor for this session. I'm so happy to have you with us, Maggie. And what excites me about your work is it inspires creativity, research, and learning all at the same time, creating courageous relationships. So Maggie, tell us what you'd like to share today.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David, for inviting me to be part of this fabulous panel. I'm very excited about WISER, and will definitely be connecting with your seminars, Rosa. So thank you for that. So the call to reflect on reimagining learning in a time of crisis for this fabulous workshop got me thinking about the very idea of the university. But also for thinking about what Terry Eagleton calls the slow death of the university in current times, as well as human values and principles at the centre of what the university is and what goes on in universities. And I think WISER's a really lovely example of that, as well as the Dignilogue University. But this point is also made by the President of Ireland, who is a sociologist. And I'm just going to read you a quote from President Higgins. He says, "Academics all over the world should weep for the destruction of the concept of the university that has occurred in so many places, which has led to little less than the degradation of learning." So he feels that public intellectuals have an ethical obligation to take a stand against increasingly aggressive orthodoxies, as well as discourses of the marketplace that have permeated all aspects of life, but particularly academia. He also suggests that the role of academics, and particularly those involved in the public sphere, should seize moments and have the courage to provide reaction, to be subversive of received assumptions and fallacies. So for me, the commitment to the university as a public good, as a space for critical thinking, of knowledge making and creativity. In fact, the idea of the university as a common good underpins my personal and political commitment to the university and my role in it, that now spans 32 years. So one of the kind of ideas that I've followed over recent years is the idea of thinking about slow, tempo, pace as a metaphor for the creation of a radical space that has the potential for disrupting the accelerated marketized university. And also, you know, that we prioritize the university as a center for what the Dignilogue University does, which is, you know, a center for dialogical learning, critical inquiry, appreciative inquiry, and human flourishing. The wonderful Philip Vostell, who's written about accelerated university, accelerated academia, calls for unhasty time as an explicit political demand and ethical principle. But he also asks us, you know, the scholars, people who teach and work in universities, to reflect on our own practices, which are often symptomatic and reproduce the very phenomena that we criticize. And so we might, you know, drawing on Lifton's concept of malignant normality, we might think about that. And you know, certain aspects of the UK academia in terms of audit, measurement, and measurement is value, is an expression of that. The two concepts I want to introduce, though, is the concept of unmanaging and this is taken from a wonderful book by Ted Taptiklis, and he talks about unmanaging the spread of managerial thinking in the public as well as private sector. And he does that he talks about that in relation to exploring our lived experience from the bottom up. And so for me, that would be using participatory, biographical, creative methods in and with organizations. And also the second concept I wanted to introduce was brought to me by the Creative Bravery Festival in Scotland, where I was asked to go and talk about the walking classroom. And I love this idea about being, this notion of being creatively brave. And so I think this is another example. And so there's no time to sort of go into the projects here, but in the information on the website, I've put 2 links to 2 films to share 2 pieces of work. One was a lovely participatory project bringing together theatre making and walking with migrant women, undocumented women in London, with the wonderful Umut Errol and Tracy Reynolds and Irini Kaptani. And the film describes the process, the kind of knowledge production process in working in participatory ways through theatre and walking. And the second is a film based on a workshop we had in Dingle in Kerry in Ireland, which is really beautiful, the Dingle Peninsula, the most westerly point in the south of Ireland. And it was a walking classroom to introduce postgraduates to really unthink orthodox methods of doing research. And so we used walking. We had parallel walks instead of panels. And that was very, very lovely and very convivial. And my last point really is these examples, are underpinned by this concept of Illich's, the concept of conviviality. And, as you know, Illich defines a convivial society as one where people are not slaves to tools, technology, or oppressive governance systems, and where creativity and imagination are the lifeblood of society. So it's a kind of connection for me there to the strategy that you have put together for the Digni University. And I really like this, Mara's concept of reimagining learning, but also Michael's wonderful talk earlier. And, as fellow travelers, rather than sort of hierarchies of learning, but as fellow travelers. And so I think I'm on the button in terms of time. So thank you.
You are on the button. I could listen to you for a long time, Maggie. It's so great to have you with us. And there's so many things about your talk that just really resonates with me. This whole creative bravery, unmanaging. That's really how this workshop grows, is trying to bring people together and share their best ideas and then string it together in a way that inspires others. David, thank you for making us dating with Wiser program. That's so fantastic. John, thank you for bringing up the challenges of working with this concept of humiliation. And it can be difficult. And Rosa, thank you for being a role model of taking these ideas out into the world and inviting more dialogues to grow out of that. And Maggie, I wish I could join you on one of your walking classrooms in Ireland. I'd be there in a flash if I could. So please get a camera for your head, and we'll just do a camera type of situation. But as everyone hears, this is a really powerful Dignilogue, where we can think about reimagining learning in a world in the midst of many crises, because we have many crises going forward. So we're going to move into our connection and reflection groups again to share ideas. What's one idea that stood out to you? How would you reimagine education? Because learning and education is an everyday experience. I think of all of us as leaders of dignity in learning. And I'm going to move you into your rooms. I want to reassure people that I checked all my buttons to say, hey, your cameras should all work. So let me know if you have problems. You can always ask for help. And we will meet for about 10 minutes, and we'll be seeing you back in the room in about 10 minutes. So first, before you go, give an applause to our wonderful Dignilogue panel that got us started in such a powerful way today. Thank you so much, panel. We're a Dignilogue group. Thank you, Evelyn, with correct my language. But
hey, dog start up with me.
Enjoy your breakout room.